So, meeting recording is in progress. So, today we want to talk about grammar, how to teach grammar, and error correction. Are you ready to start? Type yes. Oh, good. Good. Thank you. So, this is the warm up. Let's eat grandma. So, how can you save her? You have to do something with it goes to writing skills. You need to put something somewhere in writing. Any ideas? You know, if you don't have any ideas, just type no or say no, so I will go on.
I have no idea.
Okay. So if you put here a comma, so we say, let's eat, grandma. Yeah. So see how it is important? Correct punctuation can save someone's life. Yeah. So here said, let's eat grandma. That's eating grandma. But if you put the punctuation and comma here, so say let's eat. Grandma means let's go and have dinner, lunch, or something to eat together. Yeah. So these kind of icebreakers is fun in the class. Meanwhile, you're working on their skills to improve their skills. Oh, okay. Good to have you here, Marsh. So, guys, tell me, what is grammar to you? This is the first question. If you want to say grammar, if you want to give definition for grammar, what would you say? Okay, Marsh said the structure of a language. Thank you. Any other ideas?
The rules of the language?
Bravo. The rules. Very good. And what is the place of grammar in language teaching? Many students, when they want to learn new language, they say, I just want to speak. I don't want to learn grammar. Is it possible? Or if it is possible, how well they can speak? So what is the place of grammar in language teaching? Yeah, it's much brighter. The language would not make meaning. Very good. Excellent. Excellent. That's it. So, Penair, you have the book, I guess, in one of your modules, and you can download it. Otherwise, it's free downloadable. This is a very useful and handy book for all teachers. So she believes grammar is the way language manipulates and combine words. If you want to explain something, if you want to talk about your ideas, your feeling, you need longer units of meaning. Okay, so this is the time you need grammar. You need different structures to be understandable for others. Otherwise, It is possible to speak without grammar, but it is very limited with few words. But when you want to combine words, where to put words to be meaningful, you need grammar. So in this case, it is almost impossible to talk any languages without knowing the grammar. But how to teach grammar to students? And why do you think many students don't like grammar? This is the first question. Why don't they don't like grammar?
Difficult or boring to learn?
That's it. It's very difficult. It's very boring. You're right. You're right. And it involves lots of rules. That's it. Thank you, Mark. Yeah, that's it. That's it. That's the main reason. So they get bored. And sometimes it is very hard for them to understand. So the way that you present grammar as a teacher is very important. Make it interesting. Make it fun for the students. Actually, they learn it, they absorb it subconsciously. There are two approaches for teaching grammar in the language. Do you have any ideas what are those two approaches for teaching grammar? Thank you, Mary. It's not their mother tongue, so it is difficult. You're right. So, any ideas? Okay, the approaches. Do you have any ideas for the name for teaching grammar? We say deductive and inductive way of teaching. So, in deductively, before explaining, let me ask you, have you heard about them? Deductively teaching and inductively teaching. Oh, okay. So much. What do you know about it? What do you know about it? Please show
For inductive, it's well, it's not, it's part of, for example, you read a passage and then pick out the grammar words. It's part of the work done. So it's, you do some reading, writing, everything is combined to pick out the grammar in there. While the deductive, you go straight to the grammar task. You don't, you just go straight to getting the rules and teaching the process with in abstract, in a sense. You don't connect it to a particular reading or writing. That's what I think.
That's right. Thank you. Thank you. So, deductively or in inductive, deductive teaching of grammar, teacher present the rules from the very beginning. Teacher presents the rules, explain, and then later the teacher provides relevant exercises. So the students have the rule on the board, and then they follow the exercises and work on it and practice. It usually happens in traditional schools. Okay? It is very teacher-centered because the teacher will just carry the lesson by explaining the rules and giving information to the students, and and the students sit and listen, and it's very straightforward, but less class interaction because mostly the teacher is talking. So rules comes first and then example. That is deductive teaching. What's your idea now? Advantages and disadvantages. What do you think? What are the advantages of this approach or method, and what are the disadvantages? Any ideas? What are good points and negative points of this method of teaching? Deductive.
Well, deductive, you can go straight to the point. You're not wasting time trying to get into it. Just jump straight into it.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good point. Very good point. Yes. It's a straightforward. Everything is clear. Everything is on the board. And definitely fast-paced teaching to save time. And students will follow the instructions. So everything is cut and clear. What are the negative points? Do you think it has any negative?
Well, there's no context for the students, so it's very abstract because it's not connected to particular things to connect the learning for them.
Bravo, that's right. That's right. No interactions with the students. No interactions with the students. Students can see the target language, the structure, the grammar in a context, and it's somehow very robotic and mechanical. So what is the result? Students know the grammar and they can do the exercises. They can have the exams, okay, and get good marks. But while they're speaking, while they're writing, they are not very accurate and they are not very fluent with using that grammar. Now, let's talk about inductive teaching. Teaching grammar inductively means that the teacher first gives the practice and exposes the learners to the correct form of the language, and then introduces the rules. So from the very beginning, the students are in the context. First, they understand the usage and the meaning, and then together with the help of the teacher, they will find about the rules and the form of the grammar. So the teacher lets the students learn in various ways that are suitable for them based on their style of learning. They're doing different kind of activities and they use different materials. So like posters for visual learners, audios for auditory learners, games for kinesthetic ones, and they have readings and worksheets for read and write form of learning. So it is very student-centered. So that's the matter. In most cases, this type of teaching is considered to be more effective because it's more student-centered and students are involved during the process of learning or teaching. Now, tell me about advantages and disadvantages of using this method. or positive and negative points. What do you think?
Well, it's more interesting for the students because it's centered around them. They're very involved, so the learning will be more effective for them because they're more involved in the learning.
Bravo, bravo. That's the main thing. That's the main thing. But on the other hand, it's time consuming. At least you need around 30 minutes, 30 minutes to teach one grammar point. So they have various kind of activities, and that makes the lesson more interesting. And the teacher encourages students to engage. So it improves the students' engagement, and it's more meaningful and memorable for students because they were engaged in the process of their learning. Anyhow, either deductive or inductive, we need to work on 2 factors in teaching grammar. One is meaning, the other is form. It's not all form, but also the meaning, when to use it, how to use it, where to use it. Then what is the form? Form like present participle means have and has plus past participle of the verb. This is the form. But when to use it, how to use it, where to use it, that goes to the meaning of that grammar. So either deductive or inductive, we need to work on both aspects, meaning and form. Let me show you some examples for teaching inductively. Like this. You show them these pictures, and you say, look at these 2 pictures, and tell me about the differences. So with these pictures, you can teach past tense, present tense, comparative adjectives, superlative adjectives, even prepositions. Like the students can say, the city is more modern now. So they use comparative adjectives. Or in past, there were few buildings, but now there are more tall buildings. Okay? So past and present. Let's have another example. You can have a kind of survey with your students from the very beginning. Like here, I can show them 2 pictures. You tell me what point of grammar I'm working. I show them these 2 pictures, A and B. Then I said, okay, look at the pictures. Now, tell me if you had a chance to go on a trip, where would you like to go? Hotel, A or B? You can type for me. Which hotel would you like to go, A or B? You would like to go B, my dear. Oh, I like B too more. Okay. And how long would you stay there? How long would you stay there? 2 weeks? If money is what would be the matter, what would you do? Would you stay in a hotel more, or would you go on city tour or going around? I like the seasides, but staying too long is boring. Okay. And who would you go with? Would you go alone, with a friend, with a partner, with family member? Who would you go with?
With my friend is enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. Good. What with the others? With my partner. Okay. And would
Go with my family.
you would go with
Stay,
him?
stay
Mm-hmm.
at B for 2 days, then go to A for longer.
Okay. And would you spend a lot of time on shopping?
A looks
Yes, of
more
course.
convenient, closer to the city and everything else.
So you would. You would. That's the thing with us. I love shopping too, unfortunately. Yes.
Yeah. The
So
kids probably
I'm
will
a
only
woman,
stay
like,
at B for a couple of days. They will be bored.
I don't think so. You get bored in such a hotel. I could stay there for a month. I wouldn't get bored. Okay. Now, guys, tell me, what was the grammar point? What grammar point I was trying to introduce?
you mean what tense?
Yes, what grammar point? Yeah.
Uh, future or present?
The sentences, yes. I said, if you had a chance, how long would you stay? So this is conditional. Which conditional? Type 1, 2, 3, or mix? Which conditional? Or it's not zero for sure. It's conditional type 2. So then I ask my students, okay, are we really going on this trip or we are imagining? Are we going on this trip or we are imagining?
Imagining.
Yeah, that's right. We wish, yes, but it's not happening. We wish one day, hopefully. So when you want to talk about something, that's your wish, okay? Hypothetical. You're thinking about that, but it's not real. We use second conditional. Second conditional. Is it is it talking for the past, near future, present? Which one?
Future.
Bravo, it's present, near future. So conditional type 2 is for near future or present, and it's not real, it's unreal. Then I write, if I had a chance, I write a mother sentence on the board. If I had a chance, I would stay in Hotel B for 2 months. So here what's happening is I put the model sentence on the board, then I start to explain. So the first part is if clause. The second part is main clause. When you bring if clause at the beginning, you put comma. If I had a chance, comma, I would stay. But if you start your sentence with main clause, I would stay in hotel B. If I had a chance, you don't need comma. Then I explain the form. So I put the students in the context. They start to talk about the picture. I ask them some questions. They get involved. Then they understand, but it's not real. It's talking about present or near future, although we use past tense. At this level or at this level of their understanding, At this stage, I say this is second conditional. Then I explain the form. That's inductive way of teaching. Put students in the context, they understand the usage, they understand the meaning. Then the teacher introduces the form and the use. Is it clear now for you guys? Is that clear? Yeah. Good. Now, what do you think? How can you make a context? How can you prepare your students for the grammar? That was picture. That was picture and a survey or list of questions. How else you can put your students in a context?
Do a shared reading of a passage or a paragraph that has the grammar that you want to teach within it.
Bravo, bravo. Thank you. Thank you very much. That's it. Okay. You can use objects. For example, you want to teach comparative adjective. Okay. You can say hippos are bigger than rabbits. Hmm? Hippos are bigger than rabbits. You can bring objects. You can talk about their feelings, experiences, asking them questions like, where do you sit? Oh, you sit in front of the window. Okay. Or where's your coat? So your coat is next to you. And you can tell them stories like teaching past tense. We can use stories, talk about your memories, and use past verbs and adverbs. Visual materials that I show you, you can have dialogues. You can have dialogues with the students and use that grammar, like coercive devices. Therefore, moreover, in addition, on the other hand, while you have a dialogue with your students. And you can say text, as your friend said, you give them a text, a reading, they go through the reading and they face the new grammar and they understand, they get the meaning. It's especially in higher levels. So there are different ways. Here are some examples. You can even play the audio for them. Play the audio and they listen to the audio and they find out about the grammar. They get familiar with the context. Oh, really? I think it's because, what about the others? Can you hear me well? Maida has problem.
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay, Maida, I guess it's because of your internet connection. I think so, unfortunately. So here are some examples how to put your students into context. Even you can have brainstorming. You write the title on the board and students start to talk about it. Students start to talk about it and you help them and correct them. And they understand, this is the way that I use this grammar. Like prefixes, suffixes, or functions. And how to practice with your students? In direct grammar, you can have multiple choice, sentence transformation, sentence completion, matching two parts, unscrambled sentences. Multiple choice, like I went to school every day, yesterday, tomorrow. So they look at the verb, it said I went, so they have to choose yesterday. This is multiple. Or you give them an sentence and ask them to rewrite it with the word in the parentheses, like I go to school every day, and they say yesterday. So they have to write, I went to school yesterday. Or complete a sentence. If I had money, they have to write, I would buy a Mercedes. Or I would travel around the world, then the students needs to complete it, like if I had enough money. So here you're working on the form. Matching two parts, you can make list of column A and column B. In column A, one part of it, and column B, another part of the sentence, but it's jumbled. They have to match the correct form or correct parts together. And a scrambled sentences. So you give them the words, but they're not in the correct order. They have to put the words in the correct order to be meaningful. Like I school yesterday to went there. I went to the school yesterday. They have to write it down. So again, you're working on the form. Students need to practice a lot to understand the form properly. Now, what about the meaning? What kind of practice you can give to the students for the meaning? What we talked was about the use, the form. What about the meaning, the usage? Can you think of any exercises focused on the usage? Any ideas? You can give them a model sentence and ask them for other sentences to complete it, or to use the model in a sentence or the target language. Wait a minute, where is this? So I'm gonna ask them to write it down. For example, in a writing, use it in a writing. Use the grammar in a paragraph. Use the grammar in an essay. Or give them a reading. Give them a reading, or choose a passage that it contains of the desired grammatical point. Ask them to read it and circle the grammar point and explain it to you. You can have an audio for them, a listening. So you play this listening, like there is a song, Fiddler on the Roof, the Fiddler on the Roof. And in the song it said, if I were a rich man, I would buy a big villa with chickens and rooster and geese. So the whole song is in second conditional. It's very easy. You can Google it, teaching grammar with songs, and you can find 100 songs, past tense songs, and you can find it easily. In dialogues, conversation, it's speaking skills. So you can ask your students to use the target grammar in dialogues and make dialogues or conversation in group. You can have games. There are many sites for grammar games. One is bamboozle. Let me write it for you. Bamboozle. Yes. Bamboozle is all on grammar games. Even you can design one in Kahoot. Mhm, in Kahoot. So you can make it yourself or you can find it. Or Pinterest, there are many worksheets. And you can give them tasks, projects, and that. Pinterest is on quizzes and worksheets. You can download it easily. So in this way, they understand how to use the grammar point in their real life, in a meaningful context. So you have two forms of exercises, one for form, one for meaning. Is it clear, everybody? Good. Okay, so once more, when you want to work on the meaning, you can show things, you can mime it, like this is small, this is big, like miming, or cooking, running, and something happening now. Okay, so miming, gestures. You can use your hands to work on the different parts of the sentence, like I do not go home. I do not go home. I don't go home. So just using your hand gestures to make it clearer for your students. And using pictures to explain the situation and concepts like we did. And facial expressions. So totally, I can put it on gestures. Facial expressions like working, teaching functions. Let's go out. Would you like, can you help me? So how they say it more natural. And you can use timeline. You can draw a line and show them here is past tense, here is future, here is present. So on a line, it's clearer. Or frequent adverbs of frequency. Sorry, adverbs of frequency. So you draw a line, working on adverbs and frequency. So you said 100, you say always, but 0, you say never. In the middle, it's sometimes. Then before always, you can write usually. After never, you can write hardly ever. So on a line, it's much easier to explain the meaning to the students for adverbs of frequency than explaining it. So here, there are different ways. There's some examples for explaining the meaning of the grammar. So after you present, you need to check with your students. Do you remember we were talking on teaching vocabulary? We talk about CCQ. CCQ stands for, what does it stand for, CCQ? We say,
Concept checking question.
bravo. Concept checking questions. So whatever you teach, you need to concept check with your students. You ask them some questions or give them some activity just to be sure they learn up to this level. Then you continue. So like you said, she's a shop assistant. She works in a shop. So here is an example. How can you check the meaning with your students? You say, has she got a job? They say, yes. Is she working now? Right now, is she working? I don't know. Does she work every day? Yes, because she said she is a shop assistant. She works. Yes, she works every day. Is this the past, present, or future? They say it's present, but also it's past and probably future. So it's for all the time. Yes, this is simple present. So that is concept checking with the meaning. Just to be sure students understand the usage of the grammar. Even you can give them an activity or exercise like this one, and then they check their understanding. Because it can happen in grammar, it can happen in word order, in pronunciation, in spelling, or vocabulary, or register. Error happens in any of these fields. So the first one, I running fast yesterday. So what type of error it is? Grammar, word order, pronunciation, spelling, vocabulary, and register. Number one, I running fast yesterday. Yes, it is grammar.
Grammar.
Here you can use your fingers. I running fast yesterday. So they said something is missing. This door is dirty. I can see through it. What was this one? Word order, pronunciation, spelling, vocabulary. Spelling, bravo, through. Through is wrong. It's not true. Yes, THROUGHT. Okay, why we learn always English? What was this one? What's wrong? Word order. So here again, gestures using your hands. Why we always learn English. Okay, adverbs of frequency. We bring the adverbs of frequency before the main verb. So instead of why we learn always, you say, so use your hands. Why we always learn English. He's not very activity. What's wrong with this sentence? He's not very active. So the word is wrong. The vocabulary is wrong. They lives in a big house. What's wrong with this sentence?
Grammar.
Bravo, they live. And number 6, student to teacher. Student to the teacher says, give me a pen. What's wrong with this? Give me a pen. Register, actually. Means formal talking. Student to the teacher, please give me a pen. Or would you please give me a pen? So even register is important in a language. Where and how to talk formally or friendly or informal. So we said it in grammar. What structure to use to make it more formal? Would you please, what function to use? Yes. Would you please give me a pen, or please give me a pen? Thank you. So we talk about these exercises, and we always get the feedback, by the way. We always get the feedback. So you present, you practice, then you get the feedback. I want to introduce a very good book, How to Teach Grammar, by Scott Thornberry, and mostly on PPP, present practice and production. It's not very new, but it's very practical. It's very practical in teaching language, especially to lower levels. You present, you practice, and production, you get the feedback. In presentation, you put the students in the contest. In practice, you work on meaning and fluency. So you work on accuracy. And in production, they become more fluent and you get the feedback. So how to teach, and it is downloadable and it's free. It's free. How to Teach Grammar by Scott Thornberry. So if we want our students to use the grammar properly and correctly, we need to work on meaning and form both. Usage and use, not only the use, the form. So if they know the form, they only can take the exams. And they get good marks in exams, but they know it's very hard for them, or rarely they use them in their talking. It's very hard for them to use it while they are writing or speaking. So in your lesson plans or while you're teaching, work on both meaning and form. You need to design exercises for both. And don't forget CCQ and ICQ in teaching. CCQ, as I showed you, concept checking question. ICQ stands for what? What does ICQ stand for? Any idea for ICQ?
Introduction.
Instruction.
Checking question.
Instruction. Checking questions.
Question.
Bravo. Instruction. Instruction checking questions. When you give the students instruction, when you ask them or tell them what to do or how to practice or what exercise to do, you need to check that if they understand what you were saying, you need to check with them. They know what should they do. Let me give you an example. You ask your students to rewrite the sentences with the word in parentheses. Is that okay? Open your notebook. Look at page 25 on your textbook and rewrite the sentences with the word in parentheses. Then you ask them, are you going to tell me or write it? And they said, we are going to write. Are you going to do it in pairs or individual? No, individual. Are there any changes in the sentence, or are you going to make any changes in the sentence while you use the word in a parenthesis? Yes, you have to. You have to make, you have to write, it's the same meaning, but we have to make some changes. It's different in form, but the meaning is the same when I use this word in a sentence, in a parenthesis. Or, no, it completely will be different. So it depends on an exercise. So you check with your students to be sure they know what they must do in this exercise. That's instruction checking question. You check with your students, they understand the instructions. Okay, is it clear now? ICQ and CCQ. Both are clear to you?
Yes, that's clear.
Oh, okay, good. So for your lesson plan, you have the background, you know, the level, the condition, the place, the background, and everything about your students. In process, when you want to write the stages. So how you start the lesson, what is the leading, the introduction, how you prepare your students for the grammar. So in your format, in TESOL format, it's an introduction. So what is your leading, how you set the context, you explain. Then how you present, okay? Elicitations, then how you put the new grammar on the board, how you concept check with your students. That's the process of presentation. Then pre-while, you get to while stage, how you practice. In PPP format, presentation, practice, and production, for teaching grammar, we have very controlled practice, less controlled practice. Very controlled practice is the time that you work on the form. So when they have yesterday, they have to write past tense of the word. Just control, no other choices. And then you put them in a situation, you give them the function and say, okay, in this situation, use this function. They practice, but still you put the situation for them. Like you are in a party and you want to ask your student, you want to ask your friend in a party to do something together. So they need to use the function of making suggestions. So they can say, let's dance. Why not have something to eat? How about going to the yard? Or shall we dance together? Or let's have a drink. So these are the suggestions that you can make with this function. So the teacher put the students in pairs, put them in a situation and say, in this situation, practice this function. So it's less control. It's less control, but still it is controlled because you want them in the situation, use this grammar. In production part, it's a freer practice. They talk about their experiences. They talk about their memories. They talk about their real life. It's the time that you'll be sure, as a teacher, you'll be sure your students understand the grammar and they know how to use it. When they use it in for their real life. In another words, they own. I always said they own the language. They understand the language. So in process, you write pre, while, pose, how you present, how you practice the form and the meaning, and how you get the feedback post. Good? Is that clear, guys? Okay. So how can you encourage your students to practice or use the grammar? You can have more communicative tasks, group working, paragraph working, extensive reading, ask them to read and Google and find something which is related to their interests, and then the search for the grammar points in that. Okay, or talking about their interests or talking about something around them and use the grammar. But we never ask them to memorize. We never ask them to explain it in their first language. Not to explain a lot for them as a teacher. With the help of the students, let they understand the grammar point. We never ask them to do 4 pages homework just to practice the form. It's boring. So first to practice the form, enough sufficient exercises, then we ask them to use it in texts or in their writing, in their speaking, just fun in games, just fun and entertaining tasks. So make your lesson more interactive, make your lesson relevant to their lives, to their experience, so it's more memorable. If there are children, you have to put it in games and songs and stories. If there are adolescents, teens, you have to put it in games, in the readings, in songs. If they're adults, so let's talk a bit about society and use that grammar. Talk about their jobs and use that grammar. Talk about their university and use that grammar. And you need to make a different kind of exercise based on different learners. So like visual learners, they need posters, they need videos. Auditory learners, they need audios. Kinesthetic ones, they need move-up activities like games, talking, pair working, and group working. And also they need to read about it and to do some activities. So you have your toolbox full with different activities. Reduce anxiety and fear of mistakes, that's fine. Everybody makes mistakes. Even when you talk your mother tongue, you make mistakes. That's okay. That's why you come to class. So you have a chance to correct yourself. You have the opportunity to correct yourself, or even in the class, your friends, peers, or teacher are here. They all help you. So feel comfortable. Always check out their understanding through CCQ and ICQ. Give them time to practice. Grammar needs practice. So give them time to practice. Don't only explain, let them understand it. It shouldn't be only in words, but also through different tasks. Let they understand it. And always use positive reinforcement. Okay? Reinforcement. Always. Well done. Good job. You understand this part. Let's practice the other part. So don't forget to praise. Positive reinforcement, give them energy, give them motivation to learn. Any questions so far? Good. So we remember, practice makes progress. So it's good when they go home for their homework, they have real world context, like authentic written text types like stories, poems, emails, text messages, menus, flyers, recipe, greeting cards, travel brochures, posters, comic strips, crossword puzzles, newspaper articles, magazines, advertisements. So find something real for their homework. So they see that grammar point, they can see that grammar point in their real life. When you think about their grammar, don't make it too mechanical, just doing homework or workbook only. It's good to practice that part, but also add something real. Here is a very good site, Teach This. And it's free. And the first choice is grammar. You can find worksheets. You can find good worksheets, good exercises, and functional language also. And you can download it. So we can find fun and engaging activities, games, and worksheets. This is actually for English. If you want to teach English, this is a very good site. Teach this. Now, how to correct your students? The other session, we talk about writing correction codes. Yes, we did. So we give them chance, you give them codes, you give them chance to go through your codes and correct their writing. This is downloadable at www.teachingenglish.com. Yes, it's for British Council. So either you use these codes or any other codes, but your students, should know what these codes mean. So explain to them. When I put WW, it means wrong word. When I put WT, it means it's wrong tense or wrong time. Then, to correct their writing, you just put them codes, give it back to them, and they have a thinking time. So they have a chance to think and study again, correct themselves, rewrite it, and later they hand it to the teacher. In this way, you encourage them to learn better for their writing. But how to correct your students in speaking? There are different ways. One is like here, you say, what does your sister do every morning? And your student said, she goes to school. So you can say, wow, she goes to school. What time does she go to school? So you repeat the sentence, but in the correct format. What does your sister do every morning? She goes to school. She goes. Emphasize on that word. Put stress on that word. She goes. Oh, she goes to school. Because you know your students know this grammar. They are aware of this grammar. They know they have to put S. But that was just a silly mistakes. So you remind them by repeating the correct form. Then you ask them another question to check if for the next time or for the second time they say the correct sentence. So what does your sister do every morning? She goes to school. Wow, she goes to school. What time does she go to school? And they say, she goes to school at 7 o'clock. Bravo. So you ask them another question just to check. And another way is you say, she go to school. So this is self-correction. This is self-correction. She go to school? And the students start to think, oh, there's something wrong with go. So the first method was you repeat the correct form and ask them another sentence. Ask them another sentence, another question, just to check for the second time your student used the correct form. Number two is you ask them to correct themselves, self-correction. She go to school? No, she goes. Bravo, she goes. Or you can say, she use gestures. She go to school? Can you say that again? So I give them prompt. There's something wrong with the verb. She go to school? Go. So you give them prompt to correct themselves. Can you say that again? A bit louder, please. This is another way. Here, if your students have, if there's a good rapport and they're friends, you can ask for peer corrections. If there's a good rapport in the class and they have good connections with each other, they're friends. So you can say, okay, anybody can repeat that and say, she goes to school. Thank you. That's a peer correction. That's peer correction. But always first give a chance to the student to correct themselves. Okay? Give the chance to the student to correct himself or herself first. Number two, if there's a good connections with the students, good rapport, peer correction. Then three is teacher correction. From the very beginning, we encourage and help, give time to the student to understand the mistakes. In this way, they learn better. They learn better. So you can repeat the correct form. You can ask the questions to correct themselves. You can give them prompts to correct themselves, or you can ask the other students. None works, you have to say it yourself. But the thing is, you need to practice more. You need to practice more. It means the students doesn't learn it. So you have some worksheets, you have some other games or other activities to practice more in the class. But we never interrupt the students for corrections. Why is that? Because if you interrupt your students, it's very hard to concentrate and continue talking. And also maybe they lose their self-confidence and self-esteem and they stop talking. So it's better you take notes. I always take notes because it's very hard to remember everything. I always take notes and later I start to review or I write it on the board, on the screen and said, oh, okay, what's wrong with the sentence? Can you say that again? Then I ask the other students. So don't correct on the spot. Listen, collect errors. You can use activities or games, homework, worksheets, or even guess the mistake and these things to practice. And definitely we praise them too. When they say something correctly, we praise them. But here's my questions. Do you correct all the mistakes? Because while they're talking, maybe they make 100 mistakes. Do you correct all of them? What do you think? Of course not. You just correct the target language. If this session we are practicing present perfect, we correct present perfect. Our focus is on present perfect. If this session is on second conditional, our focus is on second conditional. Let them understand second conditional. Let them learn second conditional well. In other session, you will practice the other grammar points that still they have problems. But if you want to correct everything, it's very hard to concentrate on the target grammar. And number two, again, they lose their self-confidence. They say, oh, I make 100 mistakes, I'm not going to talk. But we want to encourage them to learn. So it's better you focus on the target language. Any questions for error corrections? Any questions, please? No. Okay, so here is the time if you have any questions for your assignment. Let me stop video. No, let's stop recording. Okay.